Hi, I'm Evelyn.
I'm Alexis.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Anna.
We are the Marmalade Mermaids. This week's episode is Our Flag Means Community, Season 2, Episode 4, Fun and Games.
All right, we need someone to pick a number.
It's your turn,
It's
Alexis.
your turn.
Oh,
Yeah.
my God. 122.
122. So, the jail guard with the most beautiful eyes I've ever seen pulls his entire hugging face off.
Wow.
Okay, all right.
All right,
Okay.
so our first step is to place it literally in the story.
I think that was when after they had invited Steed and Ed over, and they're just sitting there having a conversation of like what's going on amongst each other's life and stuff. And I guess this is the middle of like Mary kind of introducing herself.
Yeah, I feel like it's a here's how we met story. Okay.
I think it's important to know, like, to back up just a moment, that Annie has gotten this face by taking a guard and cutting his face off and then wearing his face.
You gotta slice while you peel.
You gotta slice and peel. That's how you tear a face.
Oh,
I love the way she says that.
But Mary can see the beautiful eyes through the face. All right, where do we see this allegorically?
I mean, it makes me think of Face Off.
Right?
That's
or Mission Impossible.
Oh, Mission Impossible. Okay.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
That's a good one. I like that one. I totally forgot about
or
that.
Scooby-Doo.
Or Scooby-Doo.
Oh, Mrs. Doubtfire. Yeah.
Oh, Mrs. Doubtfire's a good one. Oh, okay.
It also reminds me of like the Pirates of the Caribbean. Like this is an escape plot. Like we captured the guard and we're gonna go get the pirates out of the jail.
It also just reminds me of like masks where people just see the eyes.
Oh,
Like,
mhm.
you know, I don't know, do ninjas do that? It's something where you can just see the eyes and that's what shows through for you, or like a masquerade. That's not really an allegory, but there are tons of stories like that. It's also, I don't know, like there's a deception, right? When someone's able to, like in all the plays I know from antiquity and stuff, where they can dress up as somebody else. You know, they hold their body different, they make their voice sound different. So it's like, oh, I thought it was one thing, but it's actually something else. But this is an actual face, so that's a lot.
But I think it's interesting, like in that situation, I don't know if I would notice the eyes. Like, how did you notice the eyes?
I think it's like the most disturbing part, right? Like I remember watching I think Texas Chainsaw.
That's what I was
it's
gonna
like,
say.
Yeah, it's like that's one of the things that's like probably the weirdest looking is seeing another set of eyes looking through this face. It's just all like, those eyes don't belong. Oh, this is a mask. This is not a real face.
Well, that's the part I thought of, like, okay, so if we're taking her at her word, then Annie has someone else's face on top of her face, and that's fooling everybody that this is a guard. It's like normally you just change the clothes, put a hat on, something like that.
Yeah.
But that Mary's seeing what's I can't assume is going to look very good about having someone else's flesh on top of your face, and the first thing she knows are the eyes. Again, it's just like it's very strange, very strange.
I wonder if this is a story that has been told so much that she's retroactively like, it was love at first sight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And also like playing to the crowd. Oh, like she has the most beautiful eyes. She's here listening to the story. Okay.
Yeah. Because they both seem very pleased by the story. They both seem to really enjoy this telling of, this jailbreak.
Mary's thrilled, or Annie's thrilled to be like, no, you don't muscle a face. Don't like, is this, how is this useful advice? Can I also cut a mango this way? What do I need to know this for?
Yeah, there is an element of Mary appreciating Annie's skills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And that,
Oh, right. I was gonna say, well, I think you also get the sense in this little short exchange of how much they enjoy being pirates or enjoyed being pirates. Because again, like they both seem to delight so much in it. And then when Ed follows up with, Ed and Steve are telling their story, and Ed's like, well, actually, I was gonna like kill him and steal his identity. They're like, oh yeah, yeah, that's what you would do, So again, like I think this story, although interesting, also kind of helps you realize like how much they just enjoyed the lifestyle and how much maybe they talk really fondly about all these hijinks they got into when they were pirates.
Just to go back to the eyes part a little bit, I think that there is quite a bit in our culture of talking about eyes and like eyes are the windows to the soul. And when I was talking about people who I feel are sometimes dangerous in a community, like who don't have a lot of empathy, it sounds very woo woo, but I talk about their like a light goes on in their eyes. Sometimes they have like really sparkly eyes, and sometimes like there's no light in their eyes. Um, but I just think about like Victorian times. How was it Victorian? I don't know what time period it was, but when people would keep like a little cameo of their loved one's eye, like a little painting or a little drawing of their eye. And then we went to this is silly, but we went to an exhibit. Oh, that's in my own life. Anyway, there's something very knowing when somebody knows like they know the color of your eyes or they know the different characteristics because I have weird eyes. Like, yeah, I have blue eyes, but my eyes are like a very specific kind of blue. So it's different when someone who knows me also knows that about my eyes. I just think it's nice when people know your eye color.
No, there's literal and symbolic things about the eyes there in what you
Yeah.
said. Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
for me, I'm hearing in this like the love at first sight kind of thing. And like it was so beautiful. And like I would never forget those eyes. And yeah, I might have a cameo or whatever the different situation is. And feel free to move it on to the next stage where you find it in your own life, because that sounds like a hard line to try to find.
Well, if we just
I've
focus
never
on the part of focusing on the eyes, maybe that would be a little bit easier than,
Yeah.
the second half of that sentence.
Well, I think of it makes me think, not to kind of like distract from the eyes, although I don't have any good eye stories, but I'm sure you all do. It makes me think of like what's happening, what she's talking about is I recognized I don't see this as love at first sight. I took it more as they know each other, and that
Yeah.
Mary recognized Annie, was like, I know this person, even if they have a different face on top of their face. Like I still like the eyes are the signal. But that made me think of, not in my own life, but I have a friend named Laurel who I met in my sophomore year, sophomore year of college. And she's like my best friend, and we spent all this time together. And she knows of my family, but has only kind of met members of my family sporadically at random times. Anyway, and then I have my older sister, Victoria. So, in the dorms, whatever, you have pictures of your family and that kind of stuff. But I don't have a lot of pictures of my family. Anyway, Laurel went to London. She went to Wales and then was visiting London on a study abroad. And at the same time, Victoria, who was at a different university, was also doing a study abroad. And Laura was there for a whole year, and Victoria was there for 6 weeks or something like that. Anyway, Victoria's in London. She's on the tube. It's super crowded. It's really busy. She's on a platform, and all of a sudden, this little 5'0" person comes up and says, Victoria. And she turns around, and it's Laurel, who she's never met. And Victoria's like, what? And then Laurel says, like, I'm Anna's friend. Hi. And then like the trainers come in, she had to leave. And so she knew who Victoria was because my sister looks like me. And she recognized her in this super crowded city of millions of people, and she never met her before. Anyway, that's what it makes me think of like, you just have this knowing about someone that maybe you recognize them from really far away, like, oh, I know that's who it is, even if you can't see their face, Anyway, that's what makes me think of it. There's this quality to, and this familiarity with the people that you love that can kind of like resonate no matter what else, no matter how far away they are, or you can, again, like you can still recognize them. So that's the connection. It's not my story, but it's what comes up in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I think that's the best one. We should totally use that.
Yeah.
I was trying to get to the emotion in this, because like for me to make a connection to it, I would want to know, like in that moment, was it fear? Was it hope? Was it love? Was it recognition? Like I don't know how to find it in my life unless I look farther. Yeah, is it a sense of being rescued? Because here I am, like, okay, then the jail guard comes and oh, suddenly I'm free. Or would it just be terrifying? Because I would be terrified.
Well,
I
that's
would
what I
be
thought of. I'm
so
like,
scared.
this person's pulling their face off in front of you. Like,
Or is it metaphorical? Like suddenly you see who they truly are.
mm,
Like I thought you were one thing, but you're something else.
The only thing with eyes that I can think of is Ben's eyes, because I feel like he sometimes gets this crazy eye look. One of the things I've always like complimented on him, kind of similar to Katie's idea of like being able to recognize someone's eyes. His is I always like he's always felt like he doesn't have the standard like blue eyes and everything because of his like tinge of yellowish in there. And I'm like, it's what makes it unique and makes me like it more. Because it's not the most blue thing ever. But that's the only thing I can think of like when I have a feeling of seeing like what I find the most beautiful eyes. So it's crazy eyed man of mine.
Well, that's funny because I guess, yeah, you think of like typical blue eyes or typical brown eyes, but don't they say like your eyes are as different as your fingerprints?
I think
yeah.
so, yeah.
So there's not going to, I mean, there's going to be some similarities, but very unique.
Yeah.
I remember doing quizzes like in games magazines where they would have celebrities' eyes with
Yes.
nothing else. Can you tell who it is by their eyes?
Yeah.
I feel like I could get Adam Driver's just anywhere, anytime.
I think
Anywhere,
Definitely
anytime.
his
Adam Driver's like
chin.
knuckles. You'd be like,
You
oh,
would know his chin.
that's his toenail. I would, I'd know his
Well,
earlobe.
Well, I always feel like eyes are like fairly isn't there always a saying that like eyes are the most like expressive? Well, that's one of the things that's so cute about dogs is that like over time as they have evolved, they're like it's become more like they have little eyebrows, like their muscles actually move, so they actually have expressions, and that's due to them like evolving with humans.
oh,
Yeah.
to be able to communicate.
Be
Oh,
able to
that's great.
communicate.
Yeah, it's adorable.
No, that's really cute. Oh.
Yeah, I like your story a lot, Anna, because I feel that as I get older, I look more and more like my family, more and more like my mom. But I was somebody who grew up not looking like anybody in my family. And
Mm.
so it's funny
Mhm.
when you have friends over and they're like, oh, I know you guys go together because of your mannerisms or because of
Yeah.
expressions you use.
Hmm.
That familiarity is there, so that's nice for me because even if I didn't look like anybody, um because in my family there's like one particular kind of blue eye, that a shade of blue that my mom has, that my brother has, that my grandfather had, like all
Mhm.
these people have this same crystal clear blue eye, and that's not the color blue my eyes are. So I I like the familiarity of mannerisms and things like that. I think that also speaks to community. And like Alexis often says, like you are the people you marinate with. Like as you're around people longer, you kind of start to taste the same.
Oh.
But like a metaphorical flavor. And we're not actually eating people, that's illegal, and I don't want to. But no, what I was gonna say, this is not a big story, but when we went to an exhibit and it was talking about characteristics of being human and what's genetic and what's environmental and what combinations there are, whatever. It was just talking about being a human. And they had all these prosthetic eyes, and I was really pleased that I can pretty well like match people to the closest I can to their eye that's represented there. Like it was Evelyn has a very different brown eye than Alexis's brown eyes, and like I knew that. So I didn't know that I knew that, but I think that there's something about knowing the people you spend time with and knowing their
Mhm.
mannerisms, their behaviorisms, and that ties up in eye color, right? Like but sometimes you don't know. There's people in my life, I'm like, I don't know what color their eyes are. Is that my calling, is to know everybody's eye color? I don't know.
A good segue. What do you feel called to do because of this line?
So the jail guard, with the most beautiful eyes I've ever seen, pulls his entire hugging face off.
Okay, I'm not sure if this fits, but I like that this is a story that is told. Uh, it's not exactly an icebreaker, but it's like a good
Mm.
story that's like, here's a little bit about us, and da like I just feel called to be more congenial that way. I'm like, here's a fun story about us. Here's a fun story about me. In the way that it's used, maybe not the content of the story.
Hmm.
I think that's a good point because I was thinking of, this isn't connected to my call to action yet, but just thinking about what was the conversation before this story started? Like, how do we get to this point? Were they asking? Is this just, again, like they pull out for dinner parties? Like, oh, we got to tell you this story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, I'm very curious of how, like, again, we got to this point that we have to share this story. But yeah, I think there's something to be said of what you're talking about, Alexis, about just letting people into moments of your life and maybe letting them in on stories where because I'm like, I don't know what to think about Mary and Annie from this story. And they, again, like they're not really self-conscious about it. Like, this is an amazing thing that happened in our life. And so I don't know, I think having that confidence and having that comfort in your experience and not necessarily worrying about how others are going to take it or read it, because Ed and Steve are both kind of like, what's happening, and it doesn't seem to phase Mary or Annie, because again, like they just love this story. And so I think, again, like to really embrace those moments of your life, this is just who I am, because again, like they really seem to enjoy this lifestyle and they reminisce about it and talk about it a lot. So yeah, I think that is some form of a call to action of just like, you are who you are. Like, I don't know. I always have this thing that I say. I'm not a Mean Girls fan, the movie. I've seen it once. But my favorite line that I say all the time is, "You go, Glen Coco." Like, whenever I see someone who's just like they're doing whatever. I'm like, "Oh, you go, Glen Coco." Like, I just think it's lovely. So that's, I guess, my call to action for all of us. Like, just go for it, Mary. Just tell that story. You live your best
Go
higher
for it.
life right now with Annie and her face.
Well, and I don't have a very good memory, but I know I don't know, we had this vacation and like just sitting in the pool and like, oh, what do you remember about the first day? What do you remember about what we did after that? What do you remember about this? Like just reminiscing a little bit and like, hey, do you remember the first time we met, Evelyn? Like, I probably can't off the top of my head, but that might be like just being more aware and like maybe actually communicating those things. Like, only if it's helpful. I don't want to have any bad stories.
This is a little bit unrelated, but I like the idea of being somebody in a community that, because I like what you were talking about, Alexis, what's happening in the scene. Like, what does Mary maybe feel when she sees Annie's eyes? And maybe just being a person that's hopeful. Like, you see their eyes and you're hopeful. Like, I had an experience yesterday where I was dealing with something that was kind of hard. And I was reminded, like, even though I'm not right there in your situation, I'm here with you. Like, you can see that I'm here. Like, and the person just asked if they could give me a hug, and just kind of said, like, I usually wait till people ask for a hug. I don't think you're ever gonna ask for one. Like, can I give you a hug? So I think just trying to be present and having kind eyes, and that's all.
I like
That
that one.
that's
Yeah.
a very good one for all of
That's
us.
a very good one. Be present, have kind eyes,
Well, I
not
love
crazy
that.
eyes.
Yeah, I love that idea that like she can see her,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
when she's in the
Mm-hmm.
jail and with someone else's face. I hadn't thought about it in those terms of not just recognizing the eyes, but like, oh, I see you. Oh, I love that. That's a great call to action.
All right. Okay, my blessing this week is for whoever had the idea to make the unicorn leg into the peg leg for Izzy. We're not sure who articulates that, but we can see they're all working together to make it nice and stable and pretty. And so, like, bless them collectively and to the individual who came up with that idea.
A good blessing.
Who do you
I
bless?
want to bless Buttons because he is such a stalwart on in everybody's life that he interacts with. And he has like he definitely weird, but he's got like a calming presence, I think. Like not weird, creepy, weird, like zen. And I think that's really I'm glad we talked about it in the episode, the transformation he makes, because I had already blessed Buttons and I was like, I don't know how he's the biggest community builder to bless for this, but I just want to bless him because he like like you all said, but I think Anna said it really well, like he's going on a journey and that might mean he has to leave his community and that's a really hard thing to do, but it doesn't mean like his presence isn't felt and that he can't be supported. Like it's just a really pretty thing. So um thankfully we don't all turn into birds if we want to, but bless Buttons because he could make that change.
My blessing is for Izzy. Just bless Izzy because he needs community right now. Poor Izzy has been through it and not dealing with all the things well. I think one of those things is possibly obviously what he did to Ed, but then also, or he allowed to happen to Ed, and then Ed leaving. And I think, yeah, just blessings to the new unicorn and those who need community and those who, you know, hopefully are able to get it and find it in an equally lovely and meaningful way.
I want to bless that scene again with between Ed and Buttons. I really love that scene with basically Buttons proving Ed wrong about like change, like you can change. Like I think that's such an important little message sometimes that people like really needs, and I just really like how that was done. Because personally on a personal level that was just nice to see, because sometimes I have those moments where it's like I don't know if I can, do this or feel so strongly about this or feel so like negative, like being able to do something or change or whatever and stuff. So it was just really nice to have that message there. So bless that scene.
Join us next time when we discuss Season 2, Episode 5, The Curse of the Seafaring Life through the theme of hope.
All right, ladies, well done. Until next time, when we get to talk it through as a crew. Ed wiping a tear when Buttons flies away.
It's the first time I've been on this side of a walk of shame.
For the new unicorn.
You won't want to stay the hug away from this cake.